Welcome back to The Truth with Trinity, and I am your host, Trinity. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I wanted to send you a warm welcome. Here, I talk about issues that happen within the Black community, and hopefully, if nothing else, to leave you with some food for thought to go about your daily way or week. So, I wanted to jump right into this episode's topic, which is part time fathers. So I want to start off with making a small disclaimer. Not every black man walks out on his children. There are some excellent fathers, by the way, keep up the good work. And not every black man is a deadbeat father. So now that I've made that small disclaimer, I wanted to jump back into history just a little bit. And the reason why I like to go into the history of slavery and black people when we came over to this country is because nothing is new underneath the sun, and some things are still being practiced just with another coat, another color, so to speak. So I wanted to go, like I said, into the history of black people and the family dynamics in slavery and kind of how it relates to today in 2021. So if you don't know, or many of you do know, back in the slavery times, our families were separated all the time for means of punishment. They would separate your children, even if they wanted to sell them to another plantation. And then the breeding practices. So, a man would sleep with anyone. They had to, so they were forced to produce more slaves. Okay, that's the main purpose: produce more slaves, and basically to break down the family unit. And then, we had the slave master's last name, so our marriages were invalid. We did jumping over the broom. That was one of our rituals back in slavery time with black people. And I wanted to tie that into today, and our practices today, and how we conceive children, and the black man's purpose in the home, in the family, and as well as the black woman. Okay? So to get into what I want to talk about is, it just bothers me because there was a song that came out, back in the early 90s. It was called Who That Is. That's Just My Baby Daddy. T-Bird, That's Just My Baby's Daddy. I know a lot of you old schools out there remember that song, but which this will end up being another topic of discussion, another episode, but how a lot of cultures, a lot of ethnicities, they gravitate towards what they see on TV, the images and the songs. But as black people, we tend to really take that into our own, and it becomes a part of our daily lives and how we handle our families, and it becomes a part of our persona on a deeper level than it does other races of people. And I believe, especially African Americans, because we've lost our culture, it was stripped from us. So a lot of identities that we relate to comes off of TV and the radio. And to tie that into the song, it was an increase in the number of single motherhood and single fatherhood since that song. So we've always had a problem, but it has increased. So, and fluctuation after that song. And the thing is, not every marriage works out, but why are we the highest percentage of people, that have single family households, and our children and the effects on our children, but we're the least percentage of the population, especially in the United States. I think that part-time fatherhood is better than 0%. So part-time is better than, our children not having any father, but it will never be as good as 100%. And instead of raising other people's children, it's better to raise your own. So I'm encouraging the black man. A lot of times you hear them, or you hear some guy say, hey, I'm raising my new girlfriend's children. I've been there for 20 years or 15 years. I mean, that's great and everything because, even women with children, and they're single parents. It's great when a guy steps in and not just only wants to be your lover, but they also want to care for your children as well. But I encourage black men to get that gold star badge by sticking in there with their own children and the women in their life. I hear a lot that a lot of guys will say, it doesn't matter about the woman I had my child with. All that matters is the child. And, that's halfway right. And that's why we have part time fathers. Because the reality is, no, you need to be in that home 100%. And if you're dealing with women that you don't see a future with, then you shouldn't be having children with those women. And it's high time that we don't just come down on women and say, hey, you shouldn't have opened up your legs to that guy. Um, you should have got to know him better before you gave yourself physically so freely, so quickly. And it's time for us to start telling men that as well, because you hear a lot of guys say, hey, I didn't know that this woman was a prostitute, or I didn't know that she liked to sleep around, or I didn't know that she had this bipolar personality. All the things that you hear some guys say as the excuse as to why they had to break the home up and leave to go with someone else. So it's time for men to hear that too. So instead of thinking with your below the belt membrane, it's time for you to start thinking on the type of women that you're engaging with, as well as your purpose for having children. It's time for the black man to stop just having children like Johnny Appleseed. Just going around choosing this woman because she's beautiful for that night or she seems friendly and not thinking about the consequences. Because it's time for the black man to go from being a boy to thinking on a boy level, which is instant gratification. Oh, I want a piece of candy right now. And he needs to start thinking more logical as far as saying, hey, where is these decisions going to lead me in the next 10 to 20 years? Okay? How is this going to affect any future offspring that I may have? Because when the man is out the home, it does affect not only the woman, but also the children. And that's why it's always reported with our African American children that they have these learning disabilities and things of that nature and behavioral problems. They don't have behavioral problems. A lot of the times it's because of the missing father in the home. The mother is highly stressed, and it creates a fragmented mind in the child, because we can look on TV and see how other races of people, they promote that their children deserve a loving home with both parents. But you know what? It's time for us as a people to say, hey, our children deserve a full household with two loving parents. It'll also decrease our poverty when we begin to trust each other, have some self control, and could put money between two people and provide better lifestyles for our children so that they can grow up and have a better future than what a lot of us started off at. Because our ancestors did not fight for anything, for nothing, for us to go backwards. We're making a lot of progress in certain areas in 2021, but we're regressing. We're doing a lot of digressing. We're doing a lot of backwards pedaling. And my point is that it's time for black men not to just say, hey, I'm having a problem in this household, I'm going to go to another woman. Because guess what? You get with the next woman, and then you get to know her after you've had your physical encounters, your good thrills, and the freshness of a relationship. Other children come about, And then you find out that they have just as many problems, or if not more problems, than the woman that you had your first child with. Because the purpose for having children is not to brag about how many children you have, it's to have the children that you have, and preferably with one woman. Because what we need to do is we need to create families, and we need to create foundations for our children. And another thing for a lot of guys to say, oh my goodness, black women can be a handful. And we can, because just as well as, you're trying to deal with the after effects of, generations of coming from oppression, which we're still trying to fight, the black woman is too. And I challenge some of you black men, if you can spend time in jail and you can, do that, then you can deal with the black woman. You can, because, the black man, and a man is the first teacher, as far as, priests and whatnot. Back in the day, women were not allowed to be priests. So a priest is like a hood of protection. A priesthood is the protection, the male protection over neighborhoods and societies. So, you can reform the black woman, and you can heal her. The black woman needs to heal herself, but she also needs to be shown from the black man some stability. It's not good enough for you to be a part-time father. It's not. It's not good enough for you to have children by a woman and say, I really don't care about her, I just care about my kid. I mean, it's almost saying you halfway care about the kid, because the child comes from the woman. Okay? So, one more thing is, so we've already talked about the damages that it does to women and children. Some of my suggestions would be marriage. Some people say that marriage is just a piece of paper, but that's that slavery mentality. Because as if you have any type of knowledge, yes, legally, you go sign some documents at a courthouse, but it's a spiritual connection, and binding, soul binding commitment that you're going to be there, and a very big financial risk. So it's no game. Okay, and it gives your children a sense of belonging from both parents. So that's what we're shooting for. Okay, another thing is, um, if the black woman sees you consistent, because, a lot of black men complain, which is, they're halfway true, they're halfway right, that, oh, the black woman always tries to prove that she doesn't need a man. And a lot of that psychologically comes from the preconceived notion that he's not going to be around for very long. And a lot of guys will say, oh, that's a woman being bitter, or she's been played too many times. Well, if you know she's been played too many times, don't be the man that comes into her life and does the same thing. Because what's happening is that when you leave a woman, the next guy comes in. It's like musical chairs. So he's dealing with someone else's baggage and the children, and it's like, no, we're not on a slavery plantation. We're not hopping plantations. Black women are not brothels. We're not in breeding pens anymore. We're not going to just be having kids and playing musical chairs with men and with other people's children. Okay? But to get back to the point though, sorry about that. To get back to the point though, if the black woman sees some consistency, if she sees that you will stick around, that you not only want to have children with her, but you want to be a man, a husband to the household, then that will kill off her preconceived notions of, oh, he's not going to be around. I got to show him I don't need a man. Because the truth is, the black woman needs the black man, and the black man needs the black woman. So, that pretty much wraps up this segment. It's been a pleasure talking with you all. If you would like to get in contact with me, you can. I have a new website. Feel free to come and go check it out. It's called thetruthwithtrinity.com. You can make a donation if you'd like. You can get in contact with me. And another way you can leave a donation is to spread the word to another brother or sister out there and just have meaningful conversations, that's going to be positive and that's going to launch us into the next level as a people. And always remember, if you can't tell the truth with anybody else, you can with Trinity. Till next time, peace and blessings.